Hi everybody, how you doing? That was terrible. Can we get a better one? Hey, there we go. Awesome. All right. So I hope you're doing well. My name is David Knight. I'm a key account manager for Process Automation Solutions. I currently oversee a group of 30 engineers and project managers at Mercedes-Benz in Vance, Alabama. I have an associate's in applied sciences from Bevel State, and I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's in business from the University of Alabama. And since I'm 31 years old, everyone in the crowd probably knows me as a millennial. My generation is called Generation Y, as in, why do I need work experience to make $100,000 a year? Or why doesn't this office have a puppy petting room? Which I would be okay with because dogs are awesome. All joking aside, I'm part of a generation that has the opportunity to lead this great industry to new heights and discover new innovations. It's an industry that was built by great people, people that had the vision to see a bright future, people that exemplify hard work and dedication to success. The man that I have the pleasure of introducing perfectly fits this mold. He is the industry editor for Automotive News and with more than 30 years of experience, he has chronicled the rise of automotive manufacturers and suppliers from Japan, Korea, Europe, and North America. He is a cornerstone in the automotive world, and he has left a legacy for all others to follow. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Lindsay Chappell.
Hi, everybody. We are really excited to bring a bunch of people together to talk about not merely what's happening in the auto industry right now, but what's going to be happening in the auto industry in the near future. We have a great panel. We're going to bring them out one by one and just tell you a little bit about who they are before we get into the questions. Let's see, we're going to start, I think, with Stuart Countess, Chief Administrative Officer of Kia Motors Manufacturing of Georgia. Here we go. Welcome. Kia Motors is in West Point, Georgia. It's been operating there since 2009 after an announcement of the plan in March of 2006. There are now 3,000 people employed there and another 12,000 suppliers involved, supplier personnel, that is to say. A big investment of $1.1 billion with a capacity to produce 360,000 vehicles a year. Star products, as you see here, the Kia Optima and Kia Sorento. So we'll be asking Stuart a lot of questions, so get ready for that. Next guest will be David Fernandez, President of Toyota Motor Manufacturing of Alabama. David, if you'd join us. Toyota and Huntsville is one of 10 Toyota U.S. factories. Toyota is responsible for 136,000 jobs in North America with an investment of $23 billion. Last year they made 2 million vehicles in North America. The Huntsville operation produces engines for the Highlander and a number of other vehicles. When we talk about expansion,
shipping a lot of stuff.
it's kind of a recurring issue there at Huntsville. There have been a number of them. 1,400 team members, a lot of engines. So welcome. Glad to have you with us. Next guest is Jason Hoff, CEO of Mercedes-Benz US International Incorporated. Welcome. Mercedes dared to do something radically different back in the, you guys can sit down, by the way, excuse me. We're casual here, in case you haven't guessed that by now. We're going to be winging it. did something very daring back in the 1990s. They decided to go into the SUV business, and I remember getting a lot of questions from senior people, even at Daimler in Germany, saying, "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" And I said, "Yeah, things will probably work out." So things, in fact, have worked out so far. These are the products they make, as you see. Quite a few of them. The EQ, see there on the side of the page, we'll be asking about in just a few minutes. So welcome, Jason. Next guest, Chris Susak, Vice President, Hyundai Motor Manufacturing, Alabama. Chris, if you're here, welcome. I actually have a memory. I feel like a proud school teacher to some extent, even though I'm just a kid. I was at the groundbreaking for every one of these operations, and I remember asking executives, like for instance, a senior executive from Hyundai, you know, you guys at Hyundai, you know, you're renowned globally for being able to produce vehicles so inexpensively and for being so profitable. How are you going to come to the United States and do that? How are you going to work with American suppliers and still keep that edge that you have right now in Korea? And the senior executive said, "Trust us, we'll get it done." So they did it. Welcome, Chris. And finally, Jeff Pomko, President of Honda Manufacturing of Alabama. Jeff, here we go. Welcome. Again, I remember that groundbreaking. A time when Honda suddenly needed more minivans. I mean, they needed them fast. They needed them yesterday. They needed a new factory to deliver them. And I remember asking the senior executives at Honda, well, it takes a long time to build a factory. I mean, how are you guys going to get into this? I said, well, we'll get it done. So you see there's a recurring issue here. There's a great deal of optimistic can-do attitude, and turns out they could do it. So we are pleased to bring all these people together. I'm going to sit down. No, I'm not going to sit down. I'm just going to stand up, and I'm going to throw questions to you guys. Okay. We'll leave that up, I guess. So thank you all for being here. So just to put the moment in perspective, to get us started here, you know, we can't help characterizing this particular moment in the auto industry. You want to say that we are on the threshold of upheaval. People use the word disruption, and I always keep saying disruption doesn't really cut it. It's upheaval. Disruption is when you need to, you know, change some of the ways you do things at a plant. Upheaval is when you have to rip out a line and build another one. That's what's going on here. So we're told that cars today way too much, that the parts and the cars themselves cost too much. We're told that a lot of young people don't necessarily even want to own a car. We're told that people want to get into the car business, and in some cases we've never even heard of, joining the likes of Tesla and Apple and Uber. Just a few days ago, we learned that the company Dyson Vacuum Cleaners wants to get into the electric car business, that they will be joining us. So that will be, you know, I can't help thinking that, I wish them the best of luck. I mean, obviously, you know, the more the merrier. It's great to see people succeed with new ideas, but you can't help thinking that if it happens that things don't work out for Dyson selling electric vehicles, there will be a headline in Automotive news that reads, "Dyson sucks dirt, blows money." So, but as I say, we wish them the. But in all seriousness, I mean, you guys read the newspapers. You see what's coming our way. You're all successful executives who have proven yourselves at keeping things running smoothly and keeping the ships upright. But what do you think about the change that's blowing our way? I mean, some of the fundamental changes. And let me start, if I may, with, just to be random about it, David Fernandez at Toyota. You have an entire production complex at Huntsville dedicated to internal combustion engines. Will your associates still be making those engines in 10 years?
That's a great question, and I believe absolutely they will be. We just announced at our Huntsville plant a $106 million investment just last week, and that investment is for the new Toyota Global Architect engine. So we're very happy to be getting Toyota's latest technology of engines that we'll produce, and that's still a gas engine. That engine also will give us an opportunity to have flexibility for future, and that's a replacement of a 4-cylinder engine that we currently have. So it will help us to continue the employment of the current folks that we have there with an additional 50 jobs that will come there.
So Toyota has just announced, we're still looking for more information as the company becomes clearer about what they intend to do, but Toyota intends, they tell us, to build a new U.S. vehicle assembly plant to produce cars with Mazda, and part of that plan, according to your company, will be also to build EVs. So I'm thinking Toyota currently has no battery factory in North America, but it has you here in Alabama making the current mode of vehicle propulsion. What are Huntsville's chances of making the EV batteries when that day finally arises? Is that something that is even feasible?
Well, I'd hate to speculate on the future and Toyota's product lineup that we'll be making at the different plants. What I can tell you is that Toyota is very committed to the plants that we currently have in North America, and we'll continue to adjust and change with the demand. The key point for Toyota is always about producing vehicles where the demand is, and the most important thing is going to be that we're able to produce vehicles that our customers want. Right now we're totally changing the mix. As you mentioned, vehicles right now, or customers right now, are really after the larger vehicles, right? They're after the trucks and the SUVs and not so much the sedans. Toyota's known for being a high volume producer of sedans. Camry's been the #1 selling car for the last 13 years, and we've had to adjust our mix in order to accommodate what the customer's wanting. That's what we're about. We're about adjusting the mix to make sure that we're achieving the customer demand. So what you're seeing now is kind of a change in our direction. You're going to see us making the Highlander, for example. The Highlander vehicle is a very interesting product to me. Of course, that product is made at our TMI, our Indiana plant. 90% of the parts that go into the Highlander are from our suppliers, right? So there's only about 10% of the content of the vehicle that we actually produce the parts in-house for the vehicle. So our suppliers are very important to the quality of our product. Our suppliers are very important to how we change the mix for our demand to produce more SUVs and more trucks.
Just on the same vein, you began by saying you don't want to speculate. I respect that. But I'm nothing if not a dog for persistence.
Absolutely.
What about the electric motors? That seems something that would be easy. Toyota, and to my knowledge, doesn't source electric motors in the United States unless it does so for forklifts. Yeah. Would that be something that's sort of a no-brainer for you guys to start producing motors?
Yeah, so we've already started to go down the route of electric vehicles, but I think we're moving a little bit slower than some of the other auto manufacturers. I think the future for electric vehicles is still kind of an unknown, right? To me, it's not clear how that future is going to change, going from a gas engine to all electric vehicles. I just don't think the demand is going to be there overnight for that product. So, you know, Toyota is known for its great manufacturing ability, and so I think we'll be able to easily and quickly adapt our manufacturing process to whatever the customer is demanding.
Jason, I got to turn to you. You've also been in the news. First thing I got to ask you about is this enormous new project you just announced only a week ago to spend $1 billion. I know it's not your personal money, but or maybe it is. I don't know. To create an electric vehicle. What's the background on that decision? How did that come about?
Well, Mercedes has over the last months, really year, been rolling out announcements about the expansion of our product lineup for electric vehicles, including 10 full electric models by next decade, early next decade, plus the hybridization or electrification of a lot of our existing models. In fact, over 50 of them over the next coming years. So I agree with Dave that nobody really knows what it's going to come or how much it's going to come. I think the key thing for operations, and you know, you're talking to a bunch of operations guys up here, and also for our supply base, is the flexibility. Because whether it's 10% electric or 90% electric, you know, our strategy, at least Mercedes-Benz, is to be ready for whatever comes. And that's why the integration of electric cars into our existing gas combustion engine lines is essential to our strategy, so that we can react to whatever comes our way from a customer demand standpoint.
I'm guessing if we came to visit you on any given day of any given week, you're already pretty busy. So I'm just wondering, how time consuming is it going to be to embark on this? It's not merely a plant expansion. Mercedes has been through a number of plant expansions. Yeah. This is a whole new ballgame that you guys are talking about. You're talking about a whole new technology of a vehicle, and more than that, a creation of a battery module factory for electric batteries, which I'm guessing is new technology.
Absolutely.
Are we going to see train loads of electrical engineers coming into Tuscaloosa to pull this off?
I think, you know, definitely we will be looking towards Germany for support in certain areas. A lot of it will be homegrown. A lot of it will be coming out of our local universities and school systems here. We're already discussing what type of development education programs we need to embark on. We were joking backstage that sometimes with the rapid change that we have in the automotive industry, sometimes some days feel like the building of cars is almost a secondary business. You know, everybody's so consumed with the changes and the new things that are coming that it is very challenging. And yeah, there aren't too many boring days at the moment. And the battery plant for us will be a great opportunity for the state of Alabama and also for our operation.
I hear what you're saying is, as an operating guy, your mission is to do what's asked of you, and you will. So maybe this is a question for someone else, but maybe you can answer it. You know, when we talk about sourcing EV vehicle batteries, it's become a big issue in the industry. There's no agreement really at this point on the best way to do it. Just a couple of months ago, in fact, Daimler's global product partner, Nissan, sold off its entire EV battery business, including the battery factory that it built in Smyrna, Tennessee, that its Leaf vehicles rely on. So Nissan believes, or has come to the belief, I guess, that suppliers are a better source for batteries. So Daimler obviously does not share that view. You guys are going to make your own batteries, right?
Yes. We will do the final assembly of the batteries. You know, we won't be necessarily into cell production, but the assembly of the complete battery module. We're the fifth, let's say, operation that's been announced that will have a battery plant. The others are in Germany, one in China, and then us here in the U.S. Right. So, but yeah, there are differing strategies, and you're absolutely right. I think everybody's still working their way through exactly what is the right strategy when it comes to electrical vehicles in the future.
When the planning meetings were occurring and you were sitting there and you saw that this was coming, you probably said either to yourself or out loud, hey, this is going to take a whole new skill set.
Absolutely. It's, we have a great apprentice program with Shelton State here in Alabama that a lot of our team members come through. And through that and some other programs, we're going to be reaching out to the university, especially the University of Alabama, where we have a close relationship. We're going to have to discuss and in some ways newly develop programs for some of the engineers and other skill sets that we're going to need in the future. It's a different world.
I hope everybody heard that. Something tells me that in 10 years, those words are going to be like written on a big plaque somewhere. That sounds like the dawning of a new era here. I'm picking on you guys. I'm going to turn my attention over here to Chris. Chris, you got to know that guys like me are waiting every day to hear the news that Hyundai is going to expand. We've been waiting for it for a year. Hyundai never seems to have enough capacity. You know, you've got dealers begging for more cars. This seems like a great opportunity to go ahead and.
Well, unfortunately,
now
I might be
we've assembled here to find out when are you guys going to take the next plunge for expansion or investment, or what's going to make that happen?
I'm going to make this simple. You know, of course, Hyundai Motor Company is always looking for potential growth opportunities in the United States, and most certainly Alabama is always going to be considered, just due to the successes that we've been able to experience with our community and local partners over the last decade. But I think what is important now is that we remain focused on strengthening and empowering our current and existing supply and potential future supply chain to really enhance their quality and operational efficiencies, so that when that consideration is there, and we have those opportunities, we'll be prepared to take that on, because it's important, you know, that Alabama, or the HMMA, Hyundai Motor Manufacturing of Alabama, is a highly flexible and nimble operation, and I can assure you we will be prepared when the opportunity does arise, when those decisions are made to take on those challenges, the expansion, the new model mix, and so forth. And right now, it's really hard to say that that's going to happen, but I think if you look into the future, I think we might be making some announcements.
How far into the future?
I really don't think I can tell you at this point, but stay tuned.
All right. Well, I'll be here waiting when.
Sure.
So, what you just said was that you're not doing it by yourself. You're not doing it in a vacuum. That you will move in lockstep with your supply chain.
That's correct.
One goes with the other. For the time being, what kind of suppliers would you like to see today for your current operations move in close to you geographically? I don't mean names. You don't. Well, if you want to give names, that's good too. But I mean, what sort of suppliers would be of good use to you to join the party here?
Well, of course, you know, we're always looking for future potential suppliers to help support our efforts and, you know, what we're trying to accomplish here in the U.S. and of course in the state of Alabama at Hyundai Motor Manufacturing of Alabama. And I think one of the things that I would really like to look, where I'm more focused, is really the capability of their problem solving, okay? It's important, it's important that, well, let me put it this way. Unfortunately, I continue to find that some, and not all, but some, still lack the understanding of how to do, or find the approach to do true problem solving, okay? When it comes to quality nonconformities. And I think, in most part, it's due to the lack of understanding how to really truly come to root cause analysis and conclusions. I think for the most part, again, it's usually as a result of, or it's really a symptom of lack of inadequate training, maybe some disciplines to really understand how to follow the quality problem-solving methodologies, in which some part I believe it might be a part of the management structure from the top down that really needs to focus in on how to actually establish a good culture of quality, okay, within their organization. And so when you look at that, because knowing if they don't have those tools and those abilities and those capabilities to really provide a good quality component to help supply or support our product, I think what you'll end up seeing is that it's going to have a negative impact or an adverse impact to the brand, and of course the customer relationship, you know, between the OEM and the supplier. So, and it could even go beyond that. So it's something that I'd be looking forward.
Is there a way to fix that? I mean,
absolutely.
how do you get to that? How do you fix that?
Well, obviously, you're always looking for the opportunity to work with the supplier, making sure you understand what their capabilities are. You know, what our expectations are, and what I'm sure the rest of the panel's expectations are in their own facilities. And look at the histories and look at what they're capable of doing, and making sure that we can bring them aboard and they're understanding what direction we're going and what our expectations are.
So we're in this new era. It's not a new era. It's the same era. It's just getting a little hotter. Of upheaval, and I'm sure there's some great old philosophy about the better things get, the more difficult they become. More competition in the Southeast, more growth in the Southeast, more business opportunities vying for the attention of your suppliers. Is stability an issue among suppliers? Are you encountering issues, just generally speaking, where suppliers are losing managers to good job offers elsewhere, just when you had the kinds of issues you're talking about fixed? People are finding great opportunities in another state, or employees, you know, you get a workforce trained and they're attracted off to a new plant venture that made headlines a few months earlier. Is stability an issue?
Yes, it is. Yeah, quite simply, and I could put it this way, you know, as an organization, you got to take care of your people, right? You have to, and I'm an avid believer, I believe in structure drives behavior. So I think it's so important that a supplier, an OEM, or any type of organization really understands what it takes to build a strong cultural harmony within the organization at all levels of roles and responsibility. You know, a strong culture that promotes communication, I would say information sharing, collaboration. You're looking at engagement that is actually aligned with the purpose of their business. I think if you do that, you'll have an opportunity to maintain you know, an edge with keeping your people and the retention of your people. Because I think let me put it this way. I don't want to sound cliche, okay, at all, but I think we would all agree here on the panel, I'm sure most everybody in the audience would agree that in most companies, your most valuable asset and resource is your people. So you have to figure out a way on what you have to do to give the best opportunity for your people to be successful in your organization. And I think if you do that, and quite frankly, I think if you do that, I think you'll have an opportunity to be successful in retaining the people, you know, in your organization and maintain that stability. So.
Let me switch back to your cousin over at Kia.
Long lost.
Yeah. Long lost. Stuart, way back when Kia was a construction site, certain media speculated, well, it was actually me, I speculated, that Kia was going to have all kinds of trouble finding all the people that it needed to do this big project, that there were things competing for Kia's employee base. I mean, the U.S. Army was spending a bunch of money getting ready to expand and talking about hiring thousands of people in that corridor, and I remember wondering in print, you know, this is going to be tough. This is going to be interesting to see how Kia resolved it. Obviously, things worked out okay. Am I right? Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
It was an area when Kia made the announcement. It was an old mill town. All of the, be it Milliken, West Point Pepperell, all of them had left, and it was experiencing 12.9% unemployment at that time. So there certainly was an available workforce. As time has gone by, we've grown, the supply-based community has grown, so it's actually sitting at about 4.7%. So it's been fantastic for the overall Troup County larger area, but I think more importantly, the people that came in saw a different way. We had to establish a culture. We certainly were working together with our Korean colleagues and understanding what were their objectives. We brought together a lot of different people from various OEMs, all of them bringing experiences, and we set up a culture to yield what is now showing a lot of gains from the Kia side. There's an atmosphere, we work a lot with every team member on the floor, so it's, I think everybody up here certainly works in an environment where you're on the floor, working with the people, understanding what's going on, understanding the concerns. But what also helps to make all of us successful, and certainly we feel that Kia is successful, is how we react to those conditions. And do we get the buy-in that, yep, we hear you, we're going to fix this problem, and we're moving forward. We've grown a lot of people internal. We did hire, from a first shift point of view, a lot of supervision. But the second and the third shift that expanded thereafter were people that were grown after understanding what our objectives were.
Would you call that sort of the fundamentals of your general workforce development? Is that sort of what you're describing there? That you went into it saying these are the things we need to do in order to keep this working long term?
Well, we had two basic documents. One was something we call the Kia Way, and it was about how we're going to interact with each other at all levels, whether it's in the salary side or the hourly side. It talks a lot about team concepts. It talks about good communications on both sides of an organization. When you have, in our case, particularly Korean and Americans, you've got to make sure you understand what is being asked, but then also understand what your deliverable is. It's about collaboration. The end objective is, in our case, we like to talk about one system, one team. We're going to figure out how to get there in one collective body where everybody has shared results. The second piece was, you know, our twist on taking a lot of concepts even back to the Toyota production system, the Mercedes production system. What we did in the very beginning, though, was teach every hourly team member what these things meant. What was their deliverable to those particular elements, and how were they to perform those jobs and tasks? It does involve empowerment of the people. They have to tell us when they see something's wrong. It's not just wait for myself or someone else to come find it. And continuing to coach that. It's easy always to get in an environment where people will push back and say, well, I'm told I can't do this. You have to go back out and encourage them. Hey, tell me what your issue is. Let me help you. And again, they've accepted it. For that particular area being a textile community, that was a different way of manufacturing. They had never seen advanced manufacturing on the level that we have put in that plant.
So I got to ask you then, just following up on that, last year Kia won one of J.D. Power's top awards, and then you did it again this year. I'm thinking that some of your approach might have had something to do with Kia's ability to do that. Am I right? Is that that in fact some of the focus on the workers, some of the focus on your people and how you handle people would trickle through to how consumers view the car?
It absolutely has.
Well, in that case, I was going to ask you, what'd you do that was, share it with everyone so that we can all win J.D. Power Award.
The secrets? You know, truly, Chris said it, but I think we all believe it, everyone up here. The secret's the people. There is no secret sauce to it. Admittedly, we've been asked the last year about what did we do last year. We were fortunate enough because we think we worked hard to achieve it. Again, what I would tell you is that last year when Kia was recognized as the #1 brand in the US, what we took out of that back to our employees is that 40% of that sampled survey came out of West Point, Georgia. That's pretty phenomenal for a plant that had only at that time had been in building cars a little over 6 years, and people who'd never built a car in their life. So yes, there was a lot of fanfare with it, but what the team members took was, hey, I can get to this #1 position. Now, I would tell you that also I'm an Alabama native, I'm an Alabama fan, I'm an Alabama graduate. And most everybody in that plant knows that I am. And so I certainly love my football. And we joke with everybody on the floor, and they'll tell you to this day, you got 24 hours and tomorrow it starts over. But that communication with these people actually really sticks in their mind. So fortunately, again, this year, it got repeated. But it's 24 hours and they're back working at it again. We've done a lot, certainly with the Sorrento. It's been an award-winning in this segment 2 out of the last 3 years. The people know what they're doing, and we continue to train and show them what we're doing. We feel like our ability to be very quick to react when we see problems either internally or we have some suspicion on the external market has been part of that success. Our colleagues in Korea have been nothing but supportive. So our task is now, how do we continue that?
Yeah, so you did well last year, you did well again this year. What about next year? You got money riding on that? Or?
We're hard at work.
Jeff, you probably thought I had forgotten you, and
No.
you probably wished I had forgotten you.
No.
So I was privileged to come visit Honda at Lincoln just a while back, and was just amazed at the degree of automation that the plant has embraced. You know, my mental image of Honda is somebody with a couple of screwdrivers in every pocket. You know, the guy who has an idea about how to fix something and drives in on his day off to fix something. So is this sort of a new era of Honda, sort of a high-tech Honda where you need a whole new set of skill sets?
I think it's a part of the changing environment in the industry. I think change is coming so quickly that our ability to manage that change and stay ahead of it is the key. I think part of the automation you speak of is engine assembly. When we began the operation on both lines, we assembled the engine on each line separately. But to maintain flexibility and be able to produce a product on 2 different lines without having to retool both lines for the same product, we built the engine assembly facility 3 years ago. The automation in that facility changed from a mainframe line of about 28% to 65%. So the job that those associates do is no longer just turning a bolt, confirming a torque, but they're interpreting and adjusting to their process based on the HMI or the computer screen telling them what that unit needs. So the amount of skill has changed for them in the preparation for training. So as we add new technologies to our lines, whether it's engine or frame, we have to change how we manufacture to stay ahead of the game. So I think that's what you saw at HMA as well.
Yeah. So do you go to sleep at night comfortable that this automation is doing what it's supposed to be doing? And, or do, in fact, you worry that it would be super helpful to have a whole bunch of human inspectors making sure the machines are doing what they're doing?
Go to sleep at night. Yeah, I go to sleep at night pretty well knowing that we introduced that technology, engaging maintenance, equipment, and the engineering team, and that we've got a talented group of people that can manage through that new technology. And as with any new technology, you can never plan for every occurrence that's going to happen, but their ability to then define the gap and create some true root cause and countermeasure activity allows them all to learn. I think any of us would agree that automation is really good when it works well, and it's not so good when it doesn't work. So the key is having the right technical resources in place to recover that automation as quickly as possible. And again, that's engaging an associate who their job has changed as to how they handle that process from one model to the next.
We've heard so much over the last 15 years or so about the need for auto plants to have greater flexibility, and you guys have alluded to that today. I mean, Honda was a leader in that discussion. The flexibility being the ability to change products faster, respond to change faster. Do you have that flexibility today?
Yeah, I think, as you said, Honda's strength is our flexibility to the market, to our customers. We pride ourselves on that. Do we have enough flexibility for as quick as the market is changing? Probably you can never have enough. We do have the ability to move product between lines, between facilities. As you've seen, the passenger car market has kind of taken a smaller share of the North American market at about 35%, and light truck and SUVs are taking a much larger. So that puts a lot of responsibility to those plants to react quickly. So the ability then to change a passenger car plant to be able to produce a larger SUV is not something you can do very quickly. We probably do it quicker than a lot of people can, but it's not as quick as you want to respond to the market. So the result is when that market shifts, you may not be able to provide all your customers the product they want, and we really strive to make sure we can achieve that expectation. So I think flexibility is something that we always have to work on, and the biggest issue is really our ability to increase our speed to have an impact to make those changes and stay ahead of the curve.
Hey, can you remember, or I'm sure you can remember, can you share with us a moment where you were able to shift with this new institutional flexibility that you and the rest of the industry has had sometime recently, where you could sort of, I know it's not as easy as throwing a switch, but figuratively speaking, throw the switch and pull this up and push that down?
Alabama was created on that premise. So when we came out with the minivan, it was produced at Honda Canada, and then we introduced the Pilot, and then quickly we moved to Alabama and moved those products. So Alabama then quickly became that characteristic. But really, we talked earlier, you got to develop a product for a specific manufacturing. So shifting back and forth needs to make sure there's similarities. Now HMA, we've just produced our 4th full model change in 2.5 years. That's the largest number of FMCs that we've done in the Honda family, and it was done in Lincoln, Alabama. That's a 15-year-old facility. Now, even with all the overtime that we work to try to satisfy the market, we still do not have enough capacity at our facility to meet the demand. So recently, 3 weeks ago, we transferred the Acura MDX from line 2 up to our plant in Ohio, East Liberty. That allows us to build more of the Pilots on line 2. The Pilot has been in mass production for 2+ years, and we've never gotten above 45 days of inventory of that product, which basically means when a customer goes to a dealership, they might not be able to get the model, type, or color that they want. And that's a problem, because they could go to some of my friends up here, which I'm happy about to some degree as long as they push them back my way. But we want to be able to provide those customers that product. So now allowing that MDX to move creates more capacity within the Honda family for light trucks. And with where the market's going for light truck, we really need that additional capacity to meet our customers' demand.
So if I had to characterize that example, it is in fact a an operation that over the last few years has become more flexible, has been able to speed up the cadence of model changes. What does that mean for your supply base? Are you having to go to your supply base and say, look guys, here's the new operating manual. We're gonna turn it up a little bit, get with the program.
Yeah, I can tell you the supply base has quite a challenge. In the case of any of us up here, we're able to attract high skill, high talent, folks who will probably stay in the organization for a while as long as we're an OEM manufacturer. Parts supplier have to try to gain those same technical skills, those same level of associates, but they may have an opportunity, as you said earlier, to move on or move up to one of the OEMs or to another business in the industry. So their turnover, both at the indirect and the direct standpoint, really cause issues for them. So what's even more important for the supply base is to be able to forecast the change going forward, clearly identify the skill that's needed for that change, and be able to have a pool of people that can come in understanding that they're going to have a certain amount of rotation that may be higher than what we have to run our business. And the effect is if they don't do that effectively, then they potentially cause an impact to us. Because really any one of us are only as strong as our weakest link. Many parts today, we can't continue production unless we have it where we need it, when we need it. So the supplier plays a huge impact in our ability to be successful and meet the demands.
Jason, what about your supply chain? I mean, it's a new world, I think, dawning for suppliers whose core customers, Mercedes and Vance, with Vance transitioning into electrification. What should your suppliers be doing? What should they be thinking at this point as they see, again, that new reality moving down toward them?
Many of the core things that make them successful, or in some cases maybe even unsuccessful right now, are the same things they need in the future. And we've talked about it for the last 45 minutes, and it's flexibility and it's people. Building cars is still a people business, and building components is a people business, building the final vehicle is a people business, and you got to invest in your people. And if you don't do that, then you're going to struggle. And I think you see that in many cases. That's where some of our suppliers and other suppliers struggle. And then with the changing landscape of the automotive industry, everybody keeps talking about flexibility, but we're going to keep talking about it because we don't know exactly what's coming. And the ability to be able to change, move, do whatever is needed from a customer standpoint is going to be essential for suppliers in the future. So, I think we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes, we've kind of come back to the two same topics pretty repeatedly.
But even in terms of technology, there is a new shopping list of things you're going to need from suppliers, and I'm going to guess that those parts are not currently being made somewhere near you because nobody's been making these products yet. You're
certainly going to see new suppliers coming to the area. There are electric vehicles have different components, even hybrid vehicles ask for different components or require different components, and I think that's going to open up opportunities for suppliers that maybe aren't in this area or aren't supplying to, whether it be Mercedes or any of my colleagues up here. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of new opportunities that come with that.
And on the other side of that same coin, can I envision in 2 or 3 years someone knocking on the door of MBUSI and saying, hi, I'd like to talk to you about this wonderful car part that I have, where your buyers are going to say, we really don't use much of that anymore. We've kind of gone off in this direction. Are there aspects that you can already see of the vehicle composition that are going to sort of get left behind?
Depending on how the electrical vehicle market develops, clearly, yeah, those traditional suppliers that are in, like say, combustion engine, transmission, yeah, you're going to see changes there. But you're already seeing a lot of those suppliers already change. Just like Dave talks about what he's going to change in his operation, suppliers aren't sleeping either. And they're already thinking, okay, how do I need to change and be ready for whatever comes going forward with electric vehicles?
Yeah. So we haven't really talked about this, but all of this transformation to new ideas, new approaches, new ways of doing things, new training required, it seems to me would benefit from having some assistance from the state or from the U.S. government. Talking about getting into electrification is this whole mysterious world that nobody knows about. Is there anything that the state can be doing to assist you in this time, or anything that the U.S. government could be doing?
I think education is going to be, as it always has been, one of the key elements to whatever it is that comes our way. And you know, we spend a lot of time on workforce development in, say, the 50-mile radius around our plant, because as we see the needs of our workforce changing, we got to invest in our existing workforce to get them prepared for the future, and we got to invest in the upcoming, let's say, students and other kids that are coming out of school, so that not only are they ready for what's in automotive manufacturing, but they're interested in automotive manufacturing. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, you know, some people, younger, they don't even know what it means to be in an automotive plant. And that's some of the challenges that we deal with, is just getting folks interested to say, hey, this is a good career. I can make good money in here. I don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree to do it. And it's going to provide me a good long career to go with that.
Yeah, Stuart, I'll throw the question over to you. From an administrative point of view, you have a very unique perspective. I mean, you started off in assembly, working at Jason's plant, and you've come up through quality, and you've come up now, you have a whole diverse spectrum of issues that you manage. Doesn't flexibility, though, when we talk about manufacturing flexibility, doesn't it ultimately come down to the individual? Doesn't it come down to a person's ability to be flexible with changing machinery, changing products, changing technologies, that you have to have people prepared when it needs to take place? And if so, how do you ensure that? How do you make that happen?
Well, the continued growth of our current employment base has to happen. Coming to Kia, there were some things that we did different in my past experiences at Mercedes. When I was initially looking at these functions, I honestly questioned, I'm not real sure how this is going to happen, but what I've seen is that when you have a good workforce and you're teaching them, they're growing with increased responsibilities, education. It's actually quite an amazing transformation of an individual. They certainly bring unique ideas to the table, things that people who've been in the business 20, 25 years, you know, you're kind of standing in the forest and you just can't see what's going on. So we've had those experiences, but we have to make that a more commonplace, is one of our objectives. The partnerships that we have to have with the state education system, whether it be at the K through 12 or the technical college system, is extremely important from our viewpoint. I spend a tremendous amount of time talking about that. How are we going to change this? I think we all know as industry people that our workforce is in fact changing. It's not the way my father saw it. And we have to find some adaptations in order to accommodate this. Likewise, the education system recognizes it. We see, and I've heard several people today talk about just the way industry's viewed. It's kind of always seen as a dirty, nasty environment, and it really isn't. You can go in any one of these factories and you can basically eat off the floor. But when you have a school counselor who doesn't understand that or hasn't had that experience or look inside your plant, that's a problem, and that's an issue that we in the industry own. We have to bring them in and show them what can happen with this child who's coming up through elementary and all the way into the technical or a 4-year college. We've taken an approach, at least in the state of Georgia right now, where we've invited every single counselor inside the state into our factory. Some of them, we've even come up with some programs where they spend 3 days in our factory and they get a little more in-depth view of it. Still not enough. But the feedback that we get from them is, wow, I did not realize that this was going on. I think the second piece, and Jason mentioned it also, is we as an industry have to show them what these careers can lead to. And in most cases, people want to understand what the dollars are. But they don't always understand it, and certainly the people outside of our industry don't understand it. So we've got to find a way to try to share that, and that will help a lot of our potential gaps that we all are fighting over the same workforce. It will help us in the long-term future.
Chris, we were talking about the larger issue of flexibility, and I'm wondering, you know, given the broader definition, not merely the robotics that can be reprogrammed quickly, not merely the stamping presses that can be changed out, but even when it comes to people, to have the people flexibility to make changes. How do you consider Hyundai to be a flexible operation? Can you guys,
Absolutely.
relatively speaking, turn on a dime?
Yeah, in fact, if you look at it, much like what Jeff had mentioned, the flexibility, and the rest of my colleagues here had mentioned, the flexibility is so key right now. And just a year ago, we had to make an announcement because of the fact that we are a sedan plant, right? We're a passenger car plant. We knew that we were able to forecast and foresee that there was going to be a shift in the sales and the market demand for our vehicles. So in order to maintain the level of capacity that we had at the plant, we had to do something quickly, you know. So we decided and made the decision to bring the SUV, the Santa Fe, to the plant, and we were able to make that announcement last August. And by mid-June, we launched that car. So in a matter of 9 months, 10 months, we were already building Santa Fe, supplementing what Stuart was building for Hyundai out of his plant. Another 50,000 on an annual basis. Now, of course, moving forward, we've already are in a new model, Santa Fe. We've already are starting to go through our pre-production trials and planning phases. We plan on launching the new Santa Fe this June, and so already during that midst of that period of time, we've already been able to set up the tooling, get everything done. We established that when we brought the Santa Fe, the current model, from Kia to help supplement the market, and we're going to take off running. Sorry, Stuart, but we're going to be the exclusive builder for the Santa Fe moving into the future. That'll give him more capacity to start building more Kias. So we're looking forward to that. Another thing, you know, I'd like to mention this too because it's important that, and I know with the passenger car situation, and I know if everybody took a look at the SARs that came out yesterday, there was a big spike. I think we're looking at 18.5 million now, or somewhere right around there. A big jump than what we were considering looking at before September sales. So I'm not sure if that's going to hold true or not. But I know that being in the industry for over 25 years now, I've seen a few of these downturns over the course of my career. And I know a lot of times there's a tendency or an instinct to be concerned about it. But what I can offer this positive reflection, okay, from the people side of the business, is that stay focused on what you can do in terms of enhancing your quality and your operational efficiency, because or the things that you can do to improve your organization, because we know when the sales start to soften. Of course, all of us are going to make capacity adjustments to adapt to that as much as we can, whether it be in slowing down the line rate, production down days, or what have you, until you can get that flexibility moving to whatever you're going to do to help improve your capacity levels to get back to the stages that you need to be in. But in doing so, it's important that I think that your organization can adapt well, can set up take advantage of the downtime that's available to them, or that slow period that's available to them. First of all, work on your workforce mindset, possibly work on creating or developing or even enhancing that culture of quality environment that I talked about earlier. Because I think if you look at it, if history repeats itself, as it has over the last 40 to 50 years, these types of situations, when you have the passenger sales down as they are right now, won't last forever, all right? When things begin to pick up, your organization should be positioned to be able to sustain their operational competitiveness, right? While all along, still fostering that atmosphere of heightened excellence for your organization to maintain your people side of the business and maintain that strength to be able to adapt, quickly to the situations that the market is in right now. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting reminder that there is still this that goes on in the marketplace. And Jeff, you were talking a minute ago about really becoming a stronger company after the last recession, after the last setback of 2007, 2008. Is the Lincoln operation prepared for the next economic correction? Are you guys, you built up your muscles and you figured out your old bottlenecks and you are ready for it to hit it whenever it hits? Obviously, you don't want it to happen.
Yeah, we don't want it to hit, but I think 2007 and 8 taught us a way to be flexible that we didn't think of. You got to remember, we were at the opposite end of what that market is today. Gas was $4 a gallon. Light truck SUVs were not selling, and passenger car sales were up. So it's really the opposite of here. So today, what the passenger car plants are going through is what we went through in 07 and 08. We brought the Honda Accord from Marysville, Ohio, and brought it down to our facility to be able to supplement the light truck gap that we had. And we developed our associates during that period as well. Now, as you know, that vehicle is a global vehicle developed where everything we build is developed in Ohio. So it was a little bit of a difference. It's a different characteristic coming from Marysville plant, built. That vehicle was designed for that, bringing a passenger car into a truck plant. But our team was able to get around it through engagement and transfer that product quickly. Now, fortunately, fuel prices came down, light truck went back up, but I think that flexibility that we have all talked about, we never have enough. And we're not sure what that next downturn is, whether it's SARS in sales or whether it's a product technology shift that we're not ready for. So that's why I think we have to be prepared for any technology shift for that market. We talked about electrification. We don't know how big that's going to be, whether it's 10% or 50% or where it's going to be in the future. But I think all of us are saying that we need to prepare for it, knowing that it is going to go in that direction to some degree. So are we ever flexible enough or ready for that next downturn? I think we're stronger than we were a year ago or 5 years ago. So I would answer yes to that right now.
Yeah. David, your company in Huntsville obviously is also a different animal than it was back in 2005, 2006, 2017, 2018 going forward. Are your needs different for the suppliers who work with you? Or are you sort of constantly telling suppliers, okay, here's where we're going, here's what we're doing, here's what we need?
Yeah, specifically for our Huntsville plant, we make 3 different type of engines. We make a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, and 8-cylinder engine. And the demand for our product has been higher than it's ever been. Last year we produced 702,000 engines. That's roughly 3,000 engines a day. So our team members are very busy. I think that translates into, a challenge for our suppliers from a capacity standpoint. But I don't think anything has changed as far as the expectation we have for our suppliers. The expectation for our suppliers is the same. We want them to have a very safe work environment. We want them to produce perfect quality. Because honestly, we don't really check our suppliers' quality when it comes to our plant. We rely on the supplier to build in quality through their process. So it's very important that they have a very good quality process for the supply of parts that they produce for us. Also, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but I don't think it's so different than what I tell my folks at my plant. And that's looking forward, you have to create a culture that's willing to change and really adapt change, because that's what we're all going to go through at some point in time, right? It's going to happen.
Right.
And so we have to kind of create that culture, within our plants here, but also our suppliers have to kind of create that same culture to embrace change and be ready for it. And then of course, from a competitive standpoint, we're all up here sitting on stage being very friendly, but we also know it's friendly competition, right? And so for our suppliers, I think it's the same thing. I think for our suppliers to continue to grow and to continue to have a very profitable environment, you have to be competitive. You have to look at producing a quality product, a better quality product at a lower cost. And that's a challenge for all of us. That's something we all, I think, struggle with.
One of the things that has changed is for Toyota, just recently, it expanded its development center, supplier center in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in order to be able to work more closely with suppliers earlier in the development, and literally creating more space so that your suppliers can come sit there and do it. Does that involve your suppliers, your engine parts suppliers are also doing that? Are they involved in getting into the system earlier?
It does. I think we've all recognized that the earlier we can be a part of the development cycle, the more input we have in the changes that designers want to make. And designers want to make a great product, but that affects how we manufacture that product, right? So being a part of that cycle very early in that development phase gives us a voice, gives us an opportunity to sit with designers and share with them maybe some of the concepts that they're thinking about and how it's going to affect us on the manufacturing side. In our Ann Arbor facility, we basically have invited some of our designers along with our suppliers to come together and talk about our future engine product. And of course, we benchmark just like everybody else does, compare our product to other products. And through that benchmark activity, we can actually see some of the best practices and think about incorporating those best practices into our product for the future.
And another change that I'm always wanting to hear more about, because it's happening as we sit here, is Toyota is adopting this whole new global approach to creating, developing, and manufacturing vehicles. The system it calls the Toyota New Global Architecture, TNGA. Just when we thought we had Toyota almost figured out, you've adopted a new system. How does that change things or affect things for your supply chain? I mean, are you having to sort of get the suppliers, the supply chain to Huntsville sort of queued up to say, look, this is a whole new idea, here's what we need from you guys?
Yeah, I think so. When you think about our new Toyota Global Architect, it's really about the customer first and making sure that we produce that product that the customer wants. There's a lot of thinking when we're talking about our new global architect, and so to simplify that, it's really just trying to make a vehicle much more adaptable to the customer's needs. So how can the customer experience be improved by the vehicle itself, along with considering things like regulations and all those challenges that we have as an industry. So making a vehicle lighter, for example, is a big challenge, and we're all trying to do that. And so I think that also impacts our suppliers, because as I mentioned earlier, our suppliers are 90% of the part content for the vehicles. So they have a big impact on whether we can actually make the vehicle lighter, we can achieve our fuel regulations that we're asked to achieve. So I think everything that we're facing as the main producer of the product directly impacts our suppliers in the same way.
Very good. I knew this was going to happen when I was invited to come up here. So I was going to run out of time before I got to ask all the questions that I wanted to ask, which is the nature of this beast when you get the brain trust of the southeastern United States on the same stage, and I only get so many minutes to ask them all the questions. That's why I didn't open it up to the audience, because I wanted to ask them my questions and not your questions. So if you want to ask them questions, you're on your own. But I have run out of time. I'm getting a signal to get the heck off the stage. We got a train moving here. So I am wondrously happy to get to talk to all of you. I'm sorry we had to do it all at the same time. I wish I could have talked to you all for about an hour and a half individually to do you all justice. You're doing amazing things. The South has transformed since I was a kid growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, where job opportunities consisted of working at Kroger or working at a hog butchering company down the street from my house that I think is now out of business. Thank you all for what you're doing. Thanks for letting me participate. Good luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Great job.